Okay, everyone. Hi, everyone. Everyone's still finding their seats? I know we're seeing a lot of people we haven't seen in a long time. I'm gonna wait for everyone to kind of settle in here. All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome. It is really good to see so many people here today. I'm going to try and stay in front of this microphone. Welcome to the first in-person RAN since the pandemic. This is exciting. And happy Research Administrator Day. All right. My name is Christy Bohensky. I'm going to be your host today. I feel very honored that I get to be your host. I'm with ORSP. I was a senior project rep for the government team, but I've just transitioned to a new role. I am the lead sponsored project officer of award management. And I've been in research. Thank you. I've been in research at UM going on 14 years now, so I've had a little bit of a role in many different ways. And one of them was a research administrator for a time. I'm also a member of the RAC Communications Committee, which is the group that puts on all of these wonderful RAN events for everyone. And man, this one today, guys, is a real proud one for us. We're very excited. I'm gonna go through, we have lots of folks. Look at all these great people. Welcome to our remote attendees. We are very excited that you're also here. We know that working remotely and hybrid is the way that we thrive these days, so hopefully you're still able to enjoy all the content from the comfort of your home or a coffee shop or wherever you do work each day. And even though you don't get to enjoy the refreshments and food with us in person, we still hope that remote attendees feel a sense of community and appreciation for all the hard work you do each day, and ideally, all in the most comfortable sweatpants you own. All right, couple of housekeeping items here. We are live streaming, like I said, for remote attendees. The recording will also be available later on the RAN webpage. And for those attending in person, probably all saw when you got your name tag that we have a ticket in there. That's for door prizes later. Please make sure to fill out your name and email on that and then put it in the basket by the table over there in front of the piano. And we're going to draw some names out and you will have a selection of a prize that's over there on the table. Let's see. Oh, and as usual, we do a post survey after this, and that's just to get general thoughts, hopefully very good comments about today. And well wishes, but also we recommend giving suggestions for any future RANs because we want to hear from you all about the content that you want to see at these meetings. All right, so guest MCs, you guys are lucky today. We have two very wonderful people. David Mulder, who is currently the Assistant Director for Outside Interests and Conflicts of Interest at the UM Medical School's Office of Regulatory Affairs. In previous roles, he was the ORSP Program Manager for International Engagement and Research Security, and the Training Manager for ORSP and Sponsored Programs. You guys might remember him from In-Person Navigates a while ago. He was fantastic. Yeah. And we have the lovely Kathy C. Ostrowski here, who serves as Chief Administrator for 3 centers at ISR, the Center for Political Studies, the Population Studies Center, and the Research Center for Group Dynamics. She also serves as Director of Administration for ISR Administrative Corps, serving those 3 centers. So they have some very fun stuff planned for you all. It's pretty entertaining. I'm gonna let you guys take it away.
All right. Thank you, Christy.
Thank you, Christy. So David.
Kathy.
Isn't it so cool that you and I have been given this privilege to be the MC duo at this first meeting back of RAN after a good long time, but more especially because we're celebrating today Research Administrators Day for all of you.
Yes. Round of applause. Yes. We are very lucky to be able to do this, and on today of all days, we're very pleased.
So I've been kind of asking, how did we get so lucky to be chosen for today? And I have an idea why.
You do. What is that?
All right. It's because, David, you and I are now basically OGs. You know, we're original gangster research administrators, along with a few others from back in the day.
Well, that may be true, Kathy, but I prefer to think of OG as old guard.
Well, that's fine, David. Old guard will do. Looking out in this group and actually having talked to folks before the meeting, I see a few other old guard folks. By a raise of hands,
No, admit it.
admit it.
And if you need help, we're
If you're
going to
an
help you
OG,
along the
admit it.
way.
All right.
We will tell you.
We're going to tell you. We're going to tell you.
Why, funny, you should ask.
Funny you should ask. All right.
So Kathy, aside from the number of years that you've actually worked in this profession, how else would someone know that they're an OG?
Okay. There are definitely clues. All right. Because the job has definitely gotten more complicated and complex for sure. And that's why it's important to celebrate the work of all the folk who are working in this zone. But do you remember back in the day when, for instance, we were doing post-award work, we would have to process a appointment for summer salary with a carbon copy turnaround document and type the short code on it, and then we would either put it in an interoffice correspondence envelope and send it along with hopes that someone would get paid, or if we didn't trust that, we would just hand deliver it to admin services ourselves.
If you don't know what this is, this is what we used to use before photocopiers.
All right, I need help. We have a TAD up here.
It was highly efficient.
Oh, help us. All right, here we go. Uh-oh, where's the TAD?
I don't think it's in there.
Oh, all right. We had an example of a TAD. We wanted to show you that artifact.
Oh, Chris is coming to help.
Chris is coming to help.
It was later in the presentation.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. We can do a quick flipper.
If you need your RAC project manager to assist with the technology,
Yes.
you might be an old guard.
Yes. If you have accidentally used this and ruined everything, you're an OG. All right. How many people here recognize this document? Please take an OG sticker.
Okay. And in my defense, my very first day at U of M, I was introduced to one of these. And I remember even then thinking, I can't say it. I was a little shocked. Okay, so where are we here?
All right.
Okay, so in addition to TADs, turnaround documents, how many of you actually remember physically typing proposal approval forms, PAFs, handwriting them, and then walking them physically around campus, or you took the bus maybe, or you drove, but you got wet ink signatures on the PAF before you then hand-delivered it to what was then DRDA, not ORSP, at Wolverine Tower or Ad Services or whatever. Raise your hand if
Raise
you
your
have
hand.
ever used a hard copy PAF. All right, there
And
we go.
you all are OGs. Take yourself a sticker. All right. I can see we have quite a few OGs still out there. We are not the only ones left. We're going to explore this a little more throughout the meeting.
I think that's a great idea, but right now we're going to introduce another fellow OG, and that is Debbie Talley from Sponsored Programs to give us a Sponsored Programs update.
All right.
Thank you, Chris.
You got it.
Good morning, everyone. So I don't know if I like to be referred to as an old G, but I guess if the term fits, I guess I'll wear it. So first of all, I just want to say thank you to all of you. This is a day to celebrate research administrators, and I just have to say that this is an honor to be standing up here talking to all of you and getting to say thank you for everything you do. You do an amazing job. Without all of you, we wouldn't be as successful as we are as a university, so thank you very much. So one of the things that Christy said was 4.5 years ago was our last in-person RAND meeting. It's kind of amazing how things have changed since then. You know, February of 2020, if you remember, it was probably, I don't even know what the weather was, but I'm guessing, you know, it was cold, and we're all thinking, okay, it's just a RAND meeting, we go to that, we go back to work. A month later, we're all working remotely. It's such a change in how we do our work, and you know, we're all proficient with Zoom meetings now, so that's pretty amazing. At this point, we are over $2 billion in research expenditures at Michigan, which is phenomenal. So thank you. Now to remember how to use my own slides. So I wanted to share a few updates with all of you. First off, we are in the midst of, we are in the midst of the FY24 Uniform Guidance Audit. So this year, the auditors are looking at R&D, and so they have, I believe, already pulled the samples and started the testing. For the most part, customer service within sponsored programs answers a lot of their questions, but there are times when we have to reach out to all of you. So if that happens, don't fret. They'll help you through the process, but that is ongoing, and our goal is to get the audit completed before December 31st, hopefully earlier than that, but it's always a goal. So that's on the list of things that we're working on. The other thing that's happening, most of you have heard about the uniform guidance revisions. So we have a working group that are representatives from central offices looking at all of the new guidance, and we will be coming back to all of you with more information about that. One of the things that we have to do is really wait to see how the federal government is going to roll or implement that guidance, so more to come. One question that many of you probably have is what to do about your budgeting right now. So continue to do your budgeting as you have, use the thresholds that are currently in place, and more information will come. So don't change anything at this point. And then, you know, this is the time of year when we are swamped with reports. So by December 31st, we have over 2,000 reports to get done. As usual, we're looking at all of you to help us get those completed and submitted timely. And so if you happen to be one of the lucky recipients of a report from our reporting team, please, you know, review that information and get it back as soon as possible. We know that we submit those to you early so that we can get them submitted on time. With that volume, we can't get them all done in the month that they're due, so we have to start working on them as soon as we can after the end date of the award. So if you have questions, if you need to include adjustments in the report, your reporting accountant can help you with that. So please do that. We have, at this point, this might be a little high, but roughly 1,600 reports to get done. So that's a lot of reports to get done in a short time. And we really appreciate all the help that you guys all provide in ensuring that we get those done and they're accurate and timely. And then I have a few personnel updates. So I know one of these folks is here today. We have some people returning to sponsor programs. So Debbie Chamberlain and Scott Stanfield are back, and they are helping in our reporting area. So we're very fortunate to have them. We also had a staff promotion. Ashley Tyler was promoted to the research administrator lead position in contract administration. And then we have someone retiring. September 30th is Laura Coddington's last day at the university, and Some of you may have worked with her. She most recently helped us navigate with all the training. So we're going to miss her, but we know that this is a great opportunity for her to go on into a new phase of her life in retirement. And so with that, I'm going to turn it over to Angela Banky.
I'm pretty loud, but if it's too much for the people in front, you chose the wrong seats. I'm so sorry. Angela Banky, so nice to be here. I see some friends in the audience. Nice to see everybody. I am the Director of Talent Acquisition for Central Campus in Ann Arbor. I do have peers within, actually, Office of University Development, if folks know that group, of course, as well as Michigan Medicine. So I just want to let folks know, depending on where you're at, med school, MishMed, campus, there are TA teams, recruiting, hiring, whatever you want to say, getting people here in jobs and seats, doing the great work, supporting the work that you all need done, because I know it's a lot. 2 billion, Debbie, did you say? Oof, that's a lot of work. What am I saying? You all know. Okay, so why am I here? And before, I have a few slides, but all this information will be shared with everybody. Mostly what I want to let folks know about is that there are teams on campus. Oh, that was too much. There are teams on campus to help you with recruiting and hiring. There are structured, important, inclusive, skills-based ways to do recruiting that we as TA professionals know and have known for decades. And so we like to sort of have a far reach with some of those best practices and ways of doing things, because you all you have regular jobs. Hiring, being on a hiring team or being a hiring manager is not a job title. And so what we in TA do is really bring effectiveness, efficiency to the process, and great candidates and all those good things. So I just have a few slides, but want to just acknowledge my colleague Cordell Miller. I didn't tell him I was gonna have him stand up and say hi, but just so you know, he also doesn't know I'm gonna say this. Cordell is solely focused on helping recruit and hire RAs. So this is new-ish. Yes, right, yes, please. And the reason is because I know some of the challenges. I've been listening for a couple years and finally able to just pivot as a team to say, the work that you do is extremely strategic and important to this institution, and teams need help. And not that everyone's doing it wrong, but there's lots of great ways to do it. And so Cordell really is going to bring that functional expertise, and now is really deep into RA world, right? And kind of what you all need. And so there's some things I'll talk about. I know I keep saying I'm going to talk about my slides, but I will in a second. That will at least just kind of let you know we're here, right? And so I just have a few minutes, and we're not going to go into all the process pieces, but the biggest thing is that you know that there's help. You all are functional experts in the RA space. Cordell is building his knowledge in that area and is really aligned with, in interviews and listening to work. And so having that knowledge of what you need is really important, and it really values your time as well. And so we can work together, we can get folks hired, we can get the help that you need with the pre and post awards. And so happy to just be here just to let you know we're here to support your efforts. Okay, slides. I kind of talked a little bit about that we're here, there were a team of 9 on campus, and there's about 14, 15 folks at Michigan Medicine, and I have their contact information on I think the last slide. So we really focus on every single thing that we do is all around skills-based inclusive recruiting. It's not post and hope that magically candidates apply. Your perfect candidate's just gonna apply when you just post, right? So people better be saying no. I know some of you better be saying no. There needs to be intentional recruiting, sourcing, outreach, right? And you all don't have the time to do it. Cordell does not 50, you guys. Don't call him tomorrow and say I have 50 openings. We have to work together. But really intentionality through the whole recruiting process. And it's not about randomness and we're gonna throw, I have heard of this happening, but not in how we run the searches, but like throw a few folks into interview candidates, like we'll get back to them in a few months, right? Like this is not good for retention, it's not good for your time. And so the way that we're doing recruiting is really, if anybody is sort of like a kind of a corporate model, right, where it's from job opening to supporting you in all of the best practices to getting the offer on the table. Of course, in partnership with local HR, right? Like I know there's local HR folks, but we are focused solely all the time, all day, every day. If anyone's ever met me, I'm just gonna talk about recruiting all the time. I'm gonna talk about U of M football, recruiting all the time, and maybe Taylor Swift. It's happening. It just happened, okay? Because I have a 14-year-old daughter, and that's what we talk about. Okay, so we are aligned with DEI. We have a center-wide campus action item, really to, one, build skill sets across this institution in this space, support openings, and really move this work so it's a best experience for you as a hiring leader or on a hiring team, and for the candidates as well. Okay, so why are we doing things the right way? Well, because you have work done. You don't have like buckets loads of time, right? And so what we know and some of the impacts that we've seen already is really around reducing time to fill. Does everyone okay with that? Instead of 6 months? And it's still good. I'm not saying speed, just do it, right? I mean, it's effective, efficient, you have confidence in who you're hiring, you're gonna hear all these deep skills that make sense for the roles that you need, not random skills that we're just gonna ask 15 questions and see what happens. This is no good for anybody, right? It's really well thought out, best practice use through the whole process, so you spend less time worrying, right? The time to proficiency is quicker when you get someone on board because they're really aligned with the skills that you need, and the experience is better for everybody. So that's really what we're trying to do, kind of holistically. I'll make this part really quick. So sometimes we have too many openings, which I really want to help if I had my way, I would help all 500 openings that are on the Ann Arbor campus right now, but we're just 9, so the math is not good for that. If you can work 200 hours a week, maybe, but. So we do have a main website that you can go to. Like, let's say you have an interview tomorrow. Go to this website, you get some best practices, there's a little kind of just-in-time video. So if we're too busy or you have something that's coming up quickly or you just want to know like, hey, you know, my process is pretty good, but I'm really stuck on ABC. This is comprehensive, a one-stop shop. So the links are in the, later in the PowerPoint. And so that is your go-to. Everything that we have, we're still building resources, but everything that we have that can be helpful on the spot and in your process, just if I wasn't here today talking about, now you know we're here, is on that page. And so it's very robust. Also doing just consulting on process work, different trainings. We've done one training, we're happy to do another one with the RA community, at really digging into, it's called boot camp, like every single piece of the process. Some folks have been there, so talk to them. If you went to boot camp recently, raise your hand. I see Susan, right? So talk to them, it was fun. We had fun, right? We had fun, okay. And then the last one, well, I'm staring at them, they better say yes. The last one is really the Cordell, right? Helping kind of full cycle and really partnering. It's not about like you as a hiring manager or on a team out of the process at all. It's together, but everyone gets to focus on their area of expertise. Okay. So those are the 3 things that we do. So, here's the webpage. There's a QR code if you want to look at it right now. Just kidding, you don't have to. But that's just a quick way to get there. And then I'm not going to talk about the research slides. It just really goes into more kind of what I just said, because I know I have 5 minutes, right? Okay, go. I'm tracking too. And so there's different trainings that we offer, like I mentioned, the boot camp. There's some folks did go to this too, a virtual reality. I'm looking at Chris. You can practice, Kathy, you can practice interviewing an avatar in the goggles, which is, 1, fun, Melissa. And safe, right? Like, let's not do a weird role play. You can just practice on an avatar, and it's really, really interesting. So, super fun. Email me if you want to go. We'll be having more sessions in the fall. And then again, kind of talked about either unit-specific things going on, we're here, whatever you need. We're just trying to move this forward. Okay. This is just to remind everyone there's a lot of work that's involved, but we can do it together, and it's going to be great, and it's going to make your life a lot easier. I'm so sorry, Cordell, I keep saying that, because then I look at you. Cordell's going to make your life easier. That's true. That's true. Okay. Now, 2 minutes. Apologize for the abrupt shift in the background, but I really wanted to, since we have dedicated resources, there's also someone on the team that does sourcing full-time, so this active outreach, right, like really important, because we need more folks applying, highly qualified folks applying to jobs. We are doing some very RA-specific things, so things like, not if somebody works here already, but all of the people that have applied to all the RA jobs in all of the years, we reached out to them. Again, not who are already we pulled the folks out who are already working, right? But just really important to say, like, hey, they showed interest, right? So things that are RA specific, trying to build the pools, whether it's with Incura or also reaching out to folks on higher ed jobs. 26,000 emails went out. Cordell's talking to candidates literally every day to figure out kind of where could they be, and then there's opening, and then we say, hey, did you see this opening, and go. So like, this is action, action, action happening all the time behind the scenes. So if anybody has noticed their pools maybe in the past few months kind of kicked up a notch, it's because of the work that Cordell's doing behind the scenes, by the way. And so also really tracking what we call like silver bronze candidates, right? Like you all have great folks applying, you have one opening, there's lots of candidates. The talent in the pool is deep, everyone. There is so much talent in our applicant pools, and we don't want to lose it. So making those connections. And then we just have continued kind of partnership. There's always something to do. I mean, there's always more work to do, right? But really trying to, at a central level, provide resources and partnerships and other sources, right, for candidates to make sure that everyone can benefit from them. So this is very RA specific. And then that's it. How'd I do? Oh, I have 3 minutes. I'm gonna give it back. I was gonna ask for if anyone had questions, but I think I'm gonna not do that because Cordell's gonna stick around for a little bit, and I will come back as well. And then you have my email, and then also if folks are in med school or MishMed, the TA team over there, and you could email me and I can still connect you with the folks. So just wanna be available. Please don't be shy, ask for help. Like this is what we do all the time, and we love talking about recruiting, if you can't tell. And so we're here for you, we're a resource, and we wanna help and move this thing forward for you guys. So that's it. David, I'm passing it back to David and Kathy.
Thank you, Angela. I just have to say, I took the VR training. It's really cool. Everyone should do it. And Cordell, you're going to be a busy guy.
You are going to be basically everybody's top talked to during networking.
Yes, because Kathy, almost every RA manager that I know is trying so hard right now to attract and recruit and hire the best talent out there for this important profession, which is why, just another reason why it's so important that on our day of all days, we acknowledge everyone here and give our thanks to all of the attendees and those at home.
That's absolutely true, David. I mean, something we all know is that the work is just most often very stressful, much of the time. And it's just not for the faint of heart, ever. You have to be resilient to take on jobs like this. And also, it actually takes people a good long time to get familiar with even how people communicate in this zone.
That is a very good point, Kathy. And to emphasize that, we are going to demonstrate what we call an implausible but possible conversation between two U of M RAs. So let's see how many of you can understand or at least relate to this conversation. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay.
Who else? Are you ready?
All right.
All right.
Hey, Kathy, I haven't seen you in ages. How are things going?
You know, they're going well. Just between us on the QT, the NIH GMS and PO told the PI you and I talked about earlier that the R01 is going for JIT.
That's great.
Yeah, but ORSPR says that it's going to need an AAR because of the change to the FNA, aka IDC.
You can't just do a PACR after the NOA comes in?
No, because it's going to the TNCs.
Bummer.
Plus, OVPR says the COE-COI has a COI. So it's going to need an RAR.
Well, it's an SBI or STTR, so.
Hey, David, how's your GSK trial going?
OMG, the CRO is asking the CTSO for a bunch of SAE information, and we're like, WTF, we just submitted all of that to on our SCR to the IRB.
Does OGC need to get involved?
Well, maybe, but they're really tied up with the HRPP's AHARP reaccreditation.
Yikes, and right on the heels of the IACUC ALAC reaccreditation too.
Yeah. Hey, did you finish that RPPR for the NSF MPI?
I'm trying, but I still have one PI who's gone AWOL. And I can't get them to go into Science CV just to complete their C&P.
Been there.
Plus, when I go into FinProd-M reports, the SOA and the PBSR are all out of whack.
Do they not match what you submitted on the SF424? Are you going to have to do a 7471? You don't want to get stuck doing a bunch of JEs.
Honestly, David, right now I'm just going to take a bunch of PTO and forget about it.
Well, I can't say that I blame you, so TGIF.
Right. It was great seeing you, David, TTFN. All right, who out there can relate to that conversation? All right. Can you imagine how a new research administrator would react even to just learning the nomenclature and the language we use in this line of work?
Yeah, so imagine how that would land on a new research administrator, or as you might say, Kathy, a new G or NG.
An NG.
But-
Get a sticker.
Get a sticker. But for now, we are so excited to introduce to you our fearless leader in the Office of the Vice President for Research, Dr. Skip Lupia, who we know is excited to share his thoughts on the important efforts of U of M research administrators.
Good to see you, Skip.
How you doing? My picture looks pretty good. It is so cool to be here. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be with you. So is it actually today is research? So that's just wrong, right? Like, why is there just one? Right? Why is there a day? Like, why is there a week or a month? I think, like, what you should actually have is Research Administrators Appreciation Day. It's a rad idea. Take a beat. Thank you. And it should be every day. One of the best things about my job is I get to talk about you guys. So literally, yes, so I'm an executive officer of the university. I know a bunch of you are thinking, wow, they've really lowered the bar. But so yesterday, we have to go around and talk about what's happening in our units. And what I talked about is the research enterprise at the University of Michigan is really impressive. But the parts that are harder to see, am I doing something wrong?
Doing everything fine.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to help you out.
Hi.
Hello.
Oh, excellent. I like that picture better. The parts that you can't see, the parts that are harder to see, are even more impressive. Like that's how I feel about this place. You walk around this university and you see everything that's happening in labs and offices. You see the groundbreaking discoveries and the people struggling and the people making, the people failing on the way to success. And it's really incredible. And the part that I sort of appreciate the most is not just the work, it's thinking about the impact. So, I don't know what your everyday is like, but it's just, stuff is swirling. But if you ever have a moment to think about what the research at this university does for people, it's an astonishing thing. It's people in this community, it's people in the community next to us, it's people all over the state and all over the nation, most of whom we can't see on an average day at a university. There are people whose lives we improve, there are people whose lives we save, right? It's really an incredible thing. And when I think about this university, I love patting ourselves on the back for the things that we do, but what keeps me up at night is how can we do better, right? Like, how do we have our integrity? And knowing about the work that you do, the integrity, the passion with which you go at it, I just hope at some point you have a moment to reflect, or that you can talk about it together, on the incredible impact this place has on people's lives. It's just, it's an amazing thing, so I hope you get to see it. But what we do isn't magic. I think it's magical sometimes, but we need every person in this place, and you guys are the bedrock of it, to act with dedication and integrity, right? I mean, one of the amazing things about the University of Michigan is how big it is. Like, Harvard's great, but like, we're bigger. Stanford's great, and we're bigger. And one of the things that means is we have people studying in all kinds of different areas. And so when the world changes a little bit and shifts and gives us a new thorny problem, it's like, what's that, right? We can combine people to try and give a sense of, well, here's a way to think about it, and here's a thing to do. But to take the next step and actually do something, it just takes everybody. It takes everybody acting with passion and integrity and collaboration. And the thing that I love every time I get to work with research administrators is that. So here's a true story. The first job of my career is at UCSD. Great place, nice ocean views, fine. But I moved here. And so I had worked with research administrators there, and they were great people. But U of M is just at a different level. And so people are asking me, like, what is this like? And I was at ISR. Are there ISR people here? You at ISR? Okay, yeah. So I'm at ISR, and the way I would describe this, so I'm running one of the big infrastructure surveys. And well, here's what it's like. If I thought the way to run this survey is we have to have a flying car, I think if I asked these folks to do it, they would try and figure out how. That was just an amazing thing. They wouldn't say, oh, that's not, let's see if we can figure it out, right? And that's what I revere about this place and what I love about it. So I'm very grateful to all of you. When I think about the role that we collectively play, again, I think about service. We're a public university, and it's an amazing, I love being at a public university. It centers us, it grounds us, it kind of, when times are difficult and maybe we need a little bit of a compass, serving people is, I think, it really helps us move forward. I like to think about us like a goal for us is to be the partner of choice. This $2 billion number, which I guess is going to be public pretty soon, that we did $2 billion, that's a number. It's a really great number. But underlying that is a whole bunch of relationships, because anytime somebody does a grant or contract with us, they're trusting us to do something. They're asking us to do something. And so I just as long as we're acting in a way that makes us a partner of choice, or the partner of choice, someone you can rely on. Even when things are tough, even when things are difficult, that's the standard I'd like for us to have. And I just see that in you. The other thing, I don't know if you think about grants, right? So I was assistant director at NSF for a number of years, and the median size grant in engineering is $130,000 a year. And so here's a question: is that a lot of money or a little money? Right? It's an interesting question. It's well, it's not a very big grant. So when you're an assistant director of NSF, you get to see all the grants, but also anytime any member of Congress or anyone in the White House has a question about anything you're currently funding, anything that was funded 20 years ago, or anything you might fund, you have to go and answer the questions. Okay? That's part of that job. And so at that moment you realize, okay, $130,000 is the median engineering grant. Median household income in the United States of America at that time was $65,000. So if you think that $130,000 is a small grant, it's actually the entire year earnings of 2 median American households, with a lot of folks working 2 jobs. That's how I grew up in the country. That's how my parents did it. And then that's an awesome responsibility, right? And so when I look at what you guys do, how much you protect research integrity, how much you safeguard the people that come into our ecosystem. Accounting, you think oh God, who wants to do that? We have to do that, right? Because that's how we increase impact per unit of effort. And it's not just the right thing to do for us. It's, the people who pay for all this, they're real and they're awesome and they live different, they're sometimes hard to see, but, they deserve all of our love and respect. And I just, when I see and learn about and experience the work that you do, you're the bedrock of all of it. Right? So, Michigan's a great place. There's the discoveries that make the news, and that's awesome. But none of this happens. None of this is possible without you guys, which is like having one day a year to reflect, like, yay, but it should be every day. And so, again, one of the best things about my job is the ability to talk about you. One of the honors of my life is the ability to work with you. I'm grateful for this time. I'm grateful for everything you do, and go Blue. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Skip. That means a lot. I think I speak for all of us that you coming here today, that means a lot for you to say that, so thank you. All right, folks. So next is our speaker, Patricia Whitcott. She is the Deborah E. Goldberg Distinguished University Professor and Arthur F. Thurnow Professor of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology and Molecular, Cellular, and Developmental Biology. She is also currently the Associate Dean for Natural Sciences in LSA. Her research expertise is in biology, particularly in genetics, development, and evolution. Since returning to UM as a faculty member in 2005, she was also an undergrad here. Her research has been continuously funded by NIH, NSF, Sloan Research Foundation, and the March of Dimes. So she has a lot of experience working with LSA's research administrators. All right, thank you, Tricia. Let's welcome her on up here.
Thank you. It truly is my pleasure to have the opportunity to come and talk to you all today. As she mentioned, I've been a faculty member at the university for almost 20 years, running a research group, and the work that you all do has really been instrumental to that success. So I'm grateful to be here on behalf of the College of LSA, but also myself as a faculty researcher to say thank you and to recognize that we are the beneficiaries, right, of all of your hard work and effort. Okay. So for those of you that don't know LSA, or the College of Literature, Science, and the Arts, I believe we are the largest school or college in Ann Arbor. We have 900 faculty. We are also the most academically diverse. We have departments ranging from Asian languages and cultures to anthropology to astronomy. And our grants range in size from $700 to $15 million, right? So the scope here is broad. Regardless of the size, right, that grant that someone spent time to write is very important to that person, and I appreciate that this group treats them all with that same sense of care. Whoops, I've gone backwards instead of forward. So LSA has the third largest volume of research across the colleges at about 250 million. I'll point out that I think ISR, and Skip can correct me, is sort of the top of that list, but many ISR faculty are actually LSA faculty. So we like to take a little bit of credit for those numbers too. It's divided among our three divisions: natural sciences, social sciences, and humanities, with the natural sciences being a bit over half of that. The undergraduate education and dean's office also occasionally submit proposals. With this diversity of research areas, it's not surprising that we submit to a lot of different types of funding agencies or private foundations. So there's nearly 150 unique agencies here. So you see the bulk go to NIH, NSF, and NASA, but we also have other government agencies, Department of Defense, Department of Energy, as well as some sort of prominent foundations and many other funders. So knowing that each of these funding agencies has their own sort of requirements, and I'll say as part of trying to solve a sticky situation recently, I read about 10% of the NIH program guide, and I do not envy your mastery, your need to master all of this. But at the end of the day, I think it's important to keep in mind what type of work your efforts are enabling and allowing to happen. So I want to highlight a couple things from the work in LSA. So some of the work we do helps us understand the past. So this is an example of work from Matt Friedman, who's the director of the Paleontology Museum, where they think they've found like the world's oldest fish brain, right? To kind of, and I think this is a great example of the curiosity-driven research that happens across the university, but perhaps especially in LSA, as well as the importance of some of our museum collections. This work also helps us understand the present. So this is one example from the Communications and Media Department, where work in understanding how the media we consume shapes our views of society, the world, and sort of our right, just sort of the world around us. Another thing happening in the present is sort of climate change and how biological systems are adapting to that. We have a faculty member, actually in my home department of ecology and evolutionary biology, that is working to understand how monarch butterflies migrate to the same places in Mexico every year and how this migration is changing with climate change. I could not miss the opportunity to show you this amazing feat in action, so I have like a 15-second sort of video. That's
They've
gonna
come from all over the US and southern Canada. Literally 125 million monarchs are clustered within the size of about 5 football fields.
Okay, and if you can, the lighting's not great, but all of those little dots that you see up there, those are all monarch butterflies. So at the end of this migration, this is incredibly dense and really a remarkable thing, right? You think about the distances these butterflies are traveling every year and landing up in the same small space. It just blows my mind. Okay, research in LSA is also helping to shape the future, and the example I've pulled out for this is work from a statistics professor, Ambaj Tawari, who is working with an interdisciplinary group to kind of figure out if they can make machines smell. And so when you think of what smell is, right, it's detecting airborne chemicals and interpreting them in some way. And so this is the analogy that's being used in that case. Okay, so it's the faculty and the discoveries that often get the headlines, but I want to also remind everyone that there's actually people involved much bigger than that. Certainly the research administrators in this group, but also members of individual labs. So this is a picture of my lab from a couple years ago. It's a mix of undergraduate students, graduate students, postdoctoral fellows, research staff. And so every proposal that goes in is often what's providing the salary and support for those people. And so I think keeping that in mind is also helpful. Okay, the work that I think you do, and again, I'll put on my faculty member hat again, and say the support I've received from research administrators I've had the pleasure to work with from the earliest stages of reminding me there's a deadline coming for a proposal, so I better start thinking and organizing it, to helping with the budget justification, to making sure, all my I's are dotted and T's are crossed. And then when the award is funded, helping me manage that, helping me make projections of personnel to hire, sending me the very helpful reminders about progress reports that are due. This is really what makes our research group sort of be able to work and function and stay funded and supported in this way. So thank you for all of that. And then finally, I want to note that us faculty are not always as good as we should be at doing some of this work, right? We do start our proposals too late. We're pushing the internal and external deadlines, not fair to you all. And when faculty are not always heeding that advice, I put back on my LSA administrator hat now and say this can, of course, lead to big problems. So if your reminders of progress reports are not heeded, the entire sort of ability for the university to receive funding becomes in jeopardy, right? And I can say that as the LSA Associate Dean for Natural Sciences, I've been in the role for a year, I've had an opportunity to try to step in and help in some of these extreme cases, in which I can always see that this group did all the right things, and it's generally the faculty member that dropped that ball, usually. But the point I want to make is those cases have been few and far between, and that is a testament to the hard work of this entire group. So I will end by just underscoring the critical role that the research administrators play at the university, thanking you again as a researcher, as a faculty member, as an administrator, and wishing you all a happy National Research Administrators Day.
Thank you so much, Tricia. That was great. All right, everyone. We've got some fun videos up next here. The first one we've got is from Kate Cagney, Director of ISR. She's also a professor of sociology in the College of LSA. Dr. Cagney took over leadership of ISR in September of 2021. She came to the University of Michigan from the University of Chicago, where she was director of the Population Research Center, director of the Agency for Healthcare Research and Quality, Predoctoral and Postdoctoral Training Program. It's very long titles that I've got to read for you. She's very accomplished. She's co-director of the Center for Health and Aging Behaviors and Longitudinal Investigations and faculty associate in the Department of Comparative Human Development. Her research examines social inequality and its relationship to health with a focus on neighborhood race and aging and the life course. Her general aim is to bring insights from urban sociological theory and methods to research on health. In her neighborhood-based research, she has worked with both structural and social process indicators of neighborhood context, including survey-based assessments, metrics of the built environment derived from systematic social observations, measures constructed from the census, and sensors that assess air quality and street activity. So, she's done a few things. She's provided a very lovely video for you all today here, so I'm gonna play it.
Good day, all. I'm Kate Cagney, the director of the Institute for Social Research, and I'm pleased to be speaking to you on National Research Administrator Day. While I regret not being able to join you in person, I was thrilled to be asked by Kathy Leibowitz to give a few remarks today, and she certainly knows my enthusiasm for her colleagues, and the collective work that all you do. I want to take a moment to recognize all of you, research administrators, who play a critical behind-the-scenes role in our success. Research administrators, as you well know, are the backbone of the university research enterprise. You handle grant submissions, manage project finances, navigate regulations, and ensure compliance with complex policies. Your expertise and dedication allow researchers to focus on advancing the science and really allow their specific aims to sing. Without the contributions of research administrators, much of what we would do would just simply not be possible. Your attention to detail, problem solving, just keeps everything running smoothly and ensures that we meet our goals efficiently and effectively, and I can say that is certainly my day-to-day experience at ISR. I do want to share a quick story. Prior to coming to ISR, I was at the University of Chicago. I reviewed many grants for NIH, and when I reviewed grants from the University of Michigan, those proposals were uniformly in excellent order, and the budgets were perfect. I can tell you then that from the other side of the desk, the research administration at the University of Michigan is most certainly the envy of other institutions. I'll close by saying you play a vital role in the collective research mission at the University of Michigan. We're grateful for all you do, and I hope that you will enjoy your time together today. Thank you.
That was fantastic. Okay, so we have another fun video, and I'm just gonna give you a heads up that this one is a little bit older, so you'll see some things that are maybe not the same, but the sentiment remains the same. It's very much an appreciation of today and for all of you and your hard work. This comes from med school. Shout out to, I think Heather Offhouse put this together, last minute she threw it all together, so shout out to her for providing this video.
Hello, Michigan Medicine Research Administration professionals. We want to thank you
for the research proposals you expertly prepare, sometimes at the last minute,
for the effortless handling of financial management issues,
and the complex puzzles you untangle, for the patience and tenacity you exhibit trying to work through the system, the creativity you show in finding solutions,
and for your dedication, supporting, discovery, and innovation.
So thank you for all the things that we see, and especially for all the things that we do not see.
Thank you for being you. Happy Research Administrators Day! Happy Research Administrators Day!
Happy Research Administrators Day!
Happy Research Administrators Day! Happy Research Administrators Day!
Happy Research Administrators Day!
Happy Research Administrators Day! Happy Research Administrators Day!
Happy Research Administrators Day! Happy Research Administrators Day!
Happy Research Administrators Day!
Okay. Carl Jepsen, that's... I love when he's in that Barbie box. I'm not sure why he's in that box, but that part is my favorite part of that video. All right, so we're going to give it back now to Kathy and David here, who have some more fun stuff planned.
So the Barbie box was part of Research Palooza last year.
All
Does
right.
anybody else remember that? So thank you, Vice President Lupia and Dr. Whitkop, and everyone who had a hand in putting together those videos. Your support for all of us, especially on this day, means a lot to us. And hearing from leaders in your positions is a great source of inspiration and motivation for all of us, truly.
You know, David, I completely agree. Recognition from our top leadership is super important. Sometimes when you're firmly entrenched in the work, you do not realize that our top leadership really do know and care about how important and also challenging and the complex work actually is. And honestly, as they've shared in the videos, that it makes a huge impact to pretty much every single unit at the University of Michigan, especially when it comes to moving the science forward and serving the faculty who are doing it.
Kathy, you said earlier that you had something to say about how to know if you're part of the new guard.
I sure do, David.
And what might that be?
All right, so I was thinking, if you're part of the new guard or an NG, you maybe haven't had a chance to take so many of the courses that the university has offered, like Navigate Fundamentals. Or maybe you've taken a couple, but not the whole suite. How many here have not really had a chance to get the training that your university offers in research administration, by a show of hands?
No,
Not many. A couple.
All right. How many of you maybe haven't had a chance yet to look up or sign up for any of the opportunities in the Ramp Up mentoring program? Raise your hands.
Who has not participated in Ramp Up?
Yeah,
A
okay,
few.
A few more people.
Yes. All right. So, for any or all of you folk who have raised your hands, and you feel, or even if you just feel you're starting in this profession, we want you to stay in. It's a really important role, and honestly, again, we've been sort of affirming how challenging the job can actually be. We want you to grab a sticker that identifies you as an NG of the new guard. We have a reason for asking you to do this, so hang in, and we'll share that in a bit.
So, Kathy, that reminds me of another example of how you might know if you're an OG.
How might you know?
So, what if you took RAIN instead of Navigate for your training? Do you remember being a raindrop, Kathy? And did you perhaps get an umbrella?
You know, I was a raindrop. I do remember rain. I did not get an umbrella. I saw the umbrellas around, and I'm like, how come I didn't get an umbrella?
She's still bitter.
But listen, following your train of thought, what about if back in the day you were thinking of uniform guidance as 821, all right? And what if you called what we now use as short codes accounts? What if you still call them accounts?
So there are a lot of clues to know your OG material. There's accounts and class codes, or what if you had to hand sort and use hard copy PBSRs to do your manual reconciliations? And who actually knows what a Form 7471 is? Yeah.
Whoop, whoop. All that and more. If any of you did any of those things, or some of the examples we listed earlier, or even other examples that you know, grab one of those OG stickers. We'll be using them later. It's real important to use them, even if you don't like them, but if you know you're an OG or an NG, we're hoping you'll put one on. Hold tight. We have more for you on that as well, NGs.
Yes, that sounds interesting, but right now let's introduce Lisa Nichols from the U of M Research Security Office, who's going to give us an update on, you guessed it, research security.
All right, thank you. These are really tough acts to follow, and I feel like I'm just going to kind of walk through these very quickly. So I'm Lisa Nichols. I'm from the Research Integrity and Compliance Office, and the areas of compliance that we cover are conflict of interest, export controls, research security, and research information security. So I'm just going to touch on a couple of updates. But again, just basically wanted to be here to, one, say we're here to serve you and let us know what we can do with respect to any of the new federal requirements that are being implemented that I'll just touch on here. And also, if there are any questions, just please reach out. So, So I'm just going to touch briefly on these common disclosure forms. I feel like this is too heavy the information to be talking about today. And so I have a timeline here. These are forms, they're current and pending support and biosketch forms that have been coordinated by federal agencies such that they're asking for the same elements, they have the same instructions. So this is all very good for the community in terms of reducing confusion and burden. And so these are being implemented starting with NSF in May of this year, and then we're seeing have the implementation timeline here as well. There is still some variation, which I note here, but I think they're making a good effort. They're using Science CV, which we heard about among the many acronyms earlier, again, to try to reduce burden in terms of pulling in information electronically and reutilizing it. So these new forms require faculty to certify that they're not part of a malign foreign talent recruitment program. So I include in the slides the definition here from the CHIPS and Science Act, but it really just comes back to the things you've heard about, research security concerns from the government, about losing intellectual property and not disclosing foreign affiliations, and that can lead to conflicts of interest and commitment. So all of that is here. As a result of requirements in the CHIPS Act and of federal agencies that would deny us funding if we don't have a prohibition in place, we did implement a prohibition in participation in these malign programs back in January. And moving on, I just want to mention these risk reviews that agencies are conducting. You might hear about them. And the mitigation plans that they're requiring. They're small in number right now, thankfully, especially if you consider that, this is a $2 billion research program at Michigan, but they're consequential for the researchers in terms of the mitigation measures that they have to put in place. So the Department of Defense, Department of Energy, NSF, and NIH have all come out with these disclosure matrices recently. And it's how they're thinking about risk, and they're evaluating proposals, and they're determining if they're going to reject a proposal because there's too much research security risk or require some kind of mitigation. And some of these we're still waiting for. Some are being modified right now. So as more information comes together, we'll provide it to all of you. And so this slide, I won't go through all of this, but it just talks about what they're thinking about. Are they receiving foreign funding? That's a concern to the Department of Defense. NIH only cares if you haven't disclosed it. Are you engaging with institutions that are on federal watch lists? So these are some of the risk concerns that they have. And some of the mitigations that we see are training, prior notification of international travel, and other mitigation measures that are included here. And so we're working with faculty now to start implementing these, and as all of the awards and agreements come in. And I just note that this is tough because China has been deemed a country of concern, and yet at the same time, it's one of our largest collaborators, and it contributes a significant amount of funding to its scientific R&D. In addition to that, we have so many Chinese students and scholars that are here on campus. So what we want to do is just continue to encourage these collaborations, and then again, just reach out to our office if there are any concerns about collaboration where we can help, to provide clarification and kind of get to a yes and how to move forward is really what we want to do. So. I just want to note for you that we're going to, as an institution, have to implement research security program requirements. They were just published in July of this year. And it's going to be a 2-year process, at least, for implementation. We, in fact, don't yet know what all of these requirements are, but these are the 4 elements. I can tell you that faculty are going to have to start taking research security training, and so that's coming online probably in about a year or so. Foreign travel security training is going to be another requirement. So, and this research security training, which is made available by NSF, can take up to 4 hours. So at Michigan, we've condensed and combined the 4 modules into one 1-hour module, and we're wrapping that up this month. So more to come on this, but these are some measures that we'll need to implement. And then I just want to mention Secure. It's a resource for the community with respect to research security resources and tools. And it stands for Safeguarding the Entire Community in the U.S. Research Environment. And so it's a $67.5 million investment over 5 years from NSF. It's led by the University of Washington, and there are 9 sub-awardees. The University of Michigan is one of them. So we're helping to lead at a national level, and I appreciate there are a number of colleagues engaged as well. David Mulder is one of them. So really happy to have David involved in that as well, Jason Owen-Smith and Kristen Crash here at Michigan. And so just to tell you very quickly, this is going to be a co-creation project where research administrators actually come together and indicate like what they need, what are their needs around research security, and they're using these 5 regional centers that they're implementing to kind of get feedback from universities, research administrators across the country. And so they're looking to hear from everyone, well, what are your needs in this space? What kind of resources you want? And they're going to look to administrators and researchers to help them develop these tools and resources using the support of this center to actually, to create them and support the development. So I think it's exciting. I'm glad that Michigan is involved and look forward to talking more about it in the future. And then I just want to mention that we updated the International Engagement website on the OVPR website. And so these are just some of the different areas the different kind of areas where we provide guidance and just updates on what's going on with the federal government and what their requirements are. And so hopefully it's helpful in, again, helping to navigate what's going on in this space. But again, we're here always happy to answer any of your questions, any questions from researchers, and I think that is it. And so thank you. Again, I just wanted to give you an update on some of the work that we're doing. Thank you all, and just again ask you to reach out to us if you need anything. So thanks again.
Thank you, Lisa, for that update. Research security is just one example of how things have only gotten more complex in the world of research here at Michigan and all around, and by association also more complex in the work of research administrators. So with that, let's get back to New G's for a while.
All right, so how many of you out there have really only been in the world of research administration for, let's say, 2 years or less? Quite a few of you. Okay, and how many of you?
New blood.
Yes, and yes. And how many of you moved into research administration from another U of M job, from something like student services or accounting, or maybe even being an administrative assistant or in a buyer position? Many of you, yeah, great. Well, you are all super NGs, so grab a sticker and we're going to share with you soon what these stickers are all about. But for right now, we're going to turn things over to our fearless RAC project manager, who just does an extraordinary amount of work behind the scenes to make events like this happen. And he doesn't get nearly enough credit for that, but Chris DeVries.
I get all my fashion tips from David, so I have to give credit where credit's due. Okay, so I'm sure nobody's going to be too upset. As we normally do with RAN meetings, we're actually running a bit ahead of schedule, so we're going to do some, we're going to call an audible here in a second. Just bear with me. First off, though, I have RAC updates. So again, I owe a huge debt of gratitude to all of you who serve on a RAC committee or have served on a RAC committee since its inception. I have to always check my notes and recognize that we've been doing RAC for now 12 years. which is hard for me to imagine because my oldest child just turned 13. And so, it's sort of like, oh, this little infant has grown and is now getting ready to talk about driving a car. And that scares the crap out of me. But that's okay. So I'm really grateful for all that you all do on RAC, because without research administrators who give their additional time, what additional time you have, to this, it would not happen. The first thing I want to mention is we are planning, the RAC Communications Subcommittee is planning our next virtual networking session. For those who don't know, the virtual networking sessions really originated because we were not able to do RAN in person, and we wanted to try and replicate that networking aspect that we lost through these sessions. And so one of the things that we've been doing is trying to hold these on a consistent basis. We try to do monthly, but sometimes it just doesn't work out that way. Our next session will be held in October. I just confirmed the date late yesterday, so I didn't get a chance to update the slides, but we will be sending more information about that. And we will be having the ORSP pre-award team join us. They'll be giving an overview of what they do. They'll be there to answer questions, and we're planning that at some point in October. If I'm not mistaken, the date is October 7th. As we do with the virtual networking sessions, we will send an email to everybody who's part of RAC, as well as an optional calendar invitation. You can take that calendar invitation, forward it on to other folks, forward that information on to folks as needed. I did want to, Kathy and David mentioned the Research Administration Mentoring Program, or RAMP. I wanted to acknowledge that in spite of us being in a sort of hybrid, virtual, or in-person work arrangements, our 8th cohort was the largest cohort that we've had so far, and it was fantastic to see folks engaged, to see folks really contributing, both on the mentee side and the mentor side. We are currently assembling our 9th RAMP cohort. As most of you know, I'll give one last shameless plug for more mentors. We are still looking for more mentors. If you want to learn more about the program, if you're not sure whether you might qualify or what might be involved, you can certainly talk to me as we get into our networking time. We plan to start that cohort in October, regardless of if we get more mentors. I'll kind of give a little backstory on that. For the 8th cohort, we actually implemented a group mentoring piece to this, which tries to pair folks who are very new to research administration with folks who are more senior in research administration, but for whom that mentoring relationship might require more training. So if you all think about getting into research administration, I can tell you when I started, I was responsible for transferring 3 R01s, 2 American Heart grants, and a couple other foundation grants from Northwestern to U of M. And so I was thrown into the fire, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't even know what NIH was. And so for me, at that point in my career, I would have been asking a lot of more training questions of my mentor that really my mentor might go, well, yeah, there's a resource here, there's a resource there. And the mentor, while that's very helpful, might almost feel like, well, I don't know if I'm being effective in this relationship. And so that was sort of the genesis for starting a group mentoring cohort, is wanting those kinds of folks to still feel like they're getting supported and are being guided and directed in their role. But it's not a formal one-on-one mentoring at the start. And so what we did is we took the mentors and the mentees who were not paired and put them in a group. And we met every month. We had different topics that we would bring to them. We would allow for opportunities for them to ask questions, bring concerns. We even had sort of a day in the life perspective from one of our mentors. And then towards the end of that, we would pair them with a mentee or mentor. And so that was sort of a gradual working into that one-to-one relationship. And so that's something we're planning to do again. So to bring this full circle, it's always nice to start with an equal number of mentors and mentees, just so that we have that available once we move the group mentors and mentees into those pairs. So again, that's why my shameless plug for more mentors. You'll hear it again. But I also wanted to, again, if folks are interested or have questions about this, share some of the evaluation results. Every cohort, we survey the folks who are part of the mentoring cohort and ask them about their experience. The first thing we always ask is, how committed do you feel your mentor or mentee was to the relationship? As you can see, for the mentors, for nearly all of them, it was a 4 or 5. We actually changed this to more of a Likert scale as opposed to a binary yes or no. But for mentees, nearly every single person gave that a 5. And so I just want to impart my thanks, especially to the mentors who were involved in this most previous cohort. The work you do, the information that you share, the connections that you help to build are key. I'll share from my experience, the RAND meeting, I started in, I think, August of, I won't say what year, and the first RAND meeting was in October. My supervisor said, this is a meeting that you need to attend, and I'm going to bring you with. And I will tell you that meant a lot to me as a new research administrator. Someone actually saying, hey, I think you would benefit from this. That was where I first got to meet folks from central offices and really got to understand the infrastructure of the university. And so again, through RAMP, through the virtual networking sessions, we're really trying to replicate a lot of what we've been able to do here. For mentees, did the mentoring relationship help you feel as though you will succeed, in your job as a research administrator? 100%. I always hate to show pie charts when it's 100% because then it's like, well, there's not much to talk about. But there is a lot to talk about. People feel as though they're going to be successful in their role, which, as we know, I can tell you, transferring grants from Northwestern, I was deathly afraid that I was going to screw something up and NIH was going to come knocking at my door. Some of the specific comments that we received from mentees: this was a great experience to connect with other RAs and feel a part of a community. And again, that's really what we're trying to build. I found the RAMP program to be extremely beneficial. It really helped me to understand research administration better and how it fits within U of M. I think understanding how things fit is always a key thing that we need to be mindful of, especially for newer folks to this profession. And it's an excellent program for a new employee to get their bearings. Again, that sort of reiterates what I've been talking about. Some specific comments from mentors. So we always want this to be beneficial on both sides of the coin. The RAMP program is extremely important to not only gain RA knowledge, but build contacts in the field. I'll share from my experience as the RAC project manager. I've only really been in one unit, and that is the medical school outside of central office roles, but I am constantly amazed at just the difference that occurs between schools. I noticed that from submitting collaborative proposals, the differences between engineering, ISR, LSA, and the med school and others. But the fact that folks can then move between those roles throughout their career, again, that's really a way that this can be beneficial for mentors as well. They're developing new contacts in different departments where they may not have ever even had any experience. I think it's a good way to connect with others at Michigan. We are so decentralized, and it's good to learn about how other departments are structured. I found it to be a very productive experience, both for me and my mentees. So again, we really want to, if you haven't noticed, I'm encouraging folks to seriously consider how you might contribute to the mentoring program. I'm not going to go through the list here. You can read them. Oh, I did want to mention all of the slides will be available after the event, including the videos that were in the slides. You'll have access to those as well. So I know the beautiful light, I mean, we can't complain with sun on a late September day. So, but it does kind of, I realize, make it a little bit difficult to see some of the slides and the videos, but those will be available. So all these folks were mentors or mentees in the 8th RAMP cohort. And again, I also wanted to acknowledge our group mentoring mentees and mentees who participated in that inaugural group. I wanted to give an update from RAC Metrics, and this relates to the MReports modernization project. As you may or may not know, in April of 2024, the MReports modernization team in ITS demonstrated a proof of concept for moving some of the really important information from MReports into Tableau. As a result of that, they took a lot of feedback. If I'm recalling correctly, I think there were close to 200 comments that they received. So they've been working through that. I realize that this has been sort of a long duration, but I can assure you, based on my contacts with them and other presentations that they've given, that they really are looking at those one by one to see how they can incorporate all of your feedback. They're going to continue doing testing and gathering feedback through the fall, and the anticipated deployment is winter of 2025. Let me see. Okay, so I do have this on the slide. I wasn't sure. We are, just to sort of make things efficient, working with the RAC Executive Committee, the RAC Committee at Large, and then anyone who is also part of the RAC M-Reports Modernization Work Group. So those are the key groups that we're communicating with. This is not to say that this is exclusive to those groups. It's just we need a pretty consistent way to communicate. So we will be sending more information. One of the key things that the group in ITS is looking for is feedback from faculty. As we know, as I know, from my experience, usually faculty would go, well, you just tell me what it is. I don't have time to go look in the financial system. But I will say that I've noticed a little bit of a shift in that over the years, especially because that information is readily available to them. So David mentioned the paper PBSRs and the paper SOAs. Oh, that was the bane of my existence. But it was key because my faculty member wouldn't know where their finances stood if I didn't go through that process. But we don't have that anymore. Now they can go right into M-Reports and view that information. So again, ITS is really looking at ways that they can make these more efficient and effective for faculty. I did want to take time on Research Administrator Day to acknowledge all of the current RAC members, but I also, maybe if we could, by a show of hands, who is either currently or has ever been involved on a RAC committee, and that's the Committee at Large, Executive Committee, Communications, Training, Metrics, Process, the DEI Work Group. There's a lot of hands here, so take a look around, because as we get into our networking time during lunch, if you have questions about RAC, you don't have to hear it from me. I mean, I'll always speak about the great things that RAC does, so if you want maybe an unbiased opinion, go talk to somebody else. I would hope they would maybe convince you that it's a worthwhile endeavor. I'm going to go through these really quickly. All the folks' names are here, so if you know these folks in your units, please thank them for their work. They are doing this in addition to the time that they spend submitting proposals, reconciling projects, everything else that falls within an RA's scope of work. The RAC Committee at Large, for those who don't know, this is comprised of at least one, but up to 2 members from each of the units on campus that perform research. So I believe that's all of the 19 schools and colleges, with perhaps the exception of the law school. So if you are in a school or college or even a central unit, the names of the folks who are on the Committee at Large are listed here. Always work with those folks if you have questions, if you have things that you want the RAC to consider or to look at. I'm going to go through our subcommittees real quick and acknowledge our chairs. Becky Yeomans DeMoss, who is the chair of our RAC Communications Subcommittee. Thank you very much, Becky. This is so, I'll tell you that Becky willingly offered to be the chair when we were looking for a successor to Kathy Leibowitz. Becky has taken this role and run with it, and I am so pleased to have her as my partner in crime for planning these kinds of meetings. It helps to have someone to bounce ideas off. Melissa Milligan, I don't know if I saw you here. Where is she? Oh, she's over here. Gotta move. Hi, Melissa. Melissa is the chair of the RAC Metrics Committee. Melissa is also very new to the role and willingly stepped up to take over. Melissa, by her, I hope I'm not giving away too much information here. Melissa admittedly has a lot of, from her perspective, knowledge from like a managerial perspective about how data and metrics can inform the work that research administrators do. But like myself, she doesn't have all the technical knowledge. So I kind of had to help her understand that that's not a requirement for this job. We do need folks who can think about what are the managerial implications of using data and metrics. So thank you, Melissa. Ann Thompson, I know I saw Ann earlier. Ann's back there. Thank you, Ann. Ann is the chair of the RAC Process Committee. Let's give Ann a round of applause. So the RAC Process Committee works with sort of taking a lot of the changes that are coming from ITS as it relates to like ERPM, as it relates to other systems, COI, M-Inform, that kind of thing. Take those changes and really apply them to what research administrators are doing day to day. And so that's a key role. The folks on the RAC Process Committee are listed here as well. Nick Prier and Melissa Lee are chair and co-chair respectively of the RAC Training Subcommittee, so let's give them a round of applause. And so the chair and co-chair arrangement is something that we just sort of inaugurated or are testing out with the RAC Training Subcommittee, but I will say it's been fantastic because Nick, as most of you know, if you've been involved in Navigate, you've probably had Nick as a trainer or had Nick's work, even though you may not have known that it was Nick's work as part of that. So having Nick really give us some insight into how we can bolster and make the training enterprise here at U of M for research administrators even better has been great. And Melissa, through her role with the AIM Hire program for those who are looking to get their their research administrator certification, their CRA, that's a study group that will help you get to that point. Melissa has a lot of passion for mentoring and has been really helpful in coming alongside me to especially implement our group mentoring program. So again, thank you for all that you do on RAC. It's really helpful. Nobody wants my ideas to be the only ideas out there, so without the folks on RAC, it would be that, and it wouldn't be good for anybody, myself included. Okay, some quick other updates. So I've been asked to give a few updates. I'm going to look at my cribbed notes here to make sure I don't miss anything. I will share that these came from other folks who were not able to attend today. So if you have questions, I can certainly take questions back or refer you to those folks. So I was asked by Diane Wilson to give a brief update about the NIH data sharing, the data management and sharing plans, now that we are 20 months in. And I read that number and I was like, oh wow, it feels like just yesterday that we were talking about these. So according to Diane, overall things are going very successfully with the data management and sharing plans. There have been, according to Diane, a small number of just-in-time alterations that have been requested. Some of you have maybe been involved with these. Maybe you know them better than I do. Element 1, so study-specific sufficient details of data type and volume. A general piece of feedback is using language that maps into the standard requirements. Confirmation that data will be shared timely, so no later than the publication or the end of the grant. And then confirmation of annual monitoring. And then the last thing that Diane wanted to make sure that I shared is that the RPPRs in October will start seeking some of this information, so I'm sure more information will be communicated about that. And as well, I'm told that they are planning a Navigate webinar, and I see Raquel nodding, so I can confirm that, to cover this information and other useful information about data management and sharing plans. So keep an eye out for that and look for more information. Okay, the other update that I have relates to the new contract with Thermo Fisher. So procurement conducted a competitive bid for lab supplies. There was input from a broad group of researchers and other staff. This is the first award is a sole primary award to Fisher. It results in some significant additional savings. I'm told that it's about approximately $30 million in savings over the life of the contract. I should note that this is a 7-year contract with the option to extend it for 3 more after that time. It includes free ground shipping for items ordered through Fisher, and as it says here, sort of the customer service piece, additional or the dedicated site specialists, white glove delivery on equipment, free returns, and expansion of the dock management and lab services program. I'm also told that this eliminates the 3.5% markup that was currently, or was, I believe this goes into effect in October, so we may still be in this current phase, don't quote me. The elimination of the 3.5% markup on tech items. There is a 4% cap increase on core items. And in addition, Thermo Fisher will be providing, this might be on the next, they will be providing a STEM scholarship and a paid internship for a U of M student. And just a reminder of, they wanted me to make sure I'm letting you know about some of the changes with sole source justification that will help with some ordering of new equipment. They did ask or express using MarketSite for standard orders and then following procedures for any equipment or other special orders. And I'm told that the items as part of this new contract are available through the Biomedical Resource Store. I don't profess to know what that is, but BRS, David, there you go. Another potential acronym for you. And then as part of this, the business process has been restructured to eliminate separate credits for federally funded grants and projects being applied from every Fisher voucher and invoice. I could probably figure out what that means, but I'm not going to take a stab at it right now. And they're targeting 10/1 for the change in the SOAs to take effect. And then in place of separate credits, they negotiated improved pricing, which will take effect. This says January 1st, 2024, but I presume that means 2025. I didn't put these slides together, so any questions can be relayed over to the procurement services group, and I'm happy to take any questions or any other feedback that you might have, and I can bring it back to this group. I know we are scheduled to go into the ORSP update, but I wanted to have Christy come up here. Before we do that, we had really wanted at one point to gather like some RA stories, and so that's kind of where our audible is here. Just bear with me a second.
I'll take over the mic. Hi, guys. We've got some time to fill, and we've got an awesome story that someone shared with us. They wanted to remain anonymous, which I think is just, research administration, you do a lot of hard work, and it's often behind the scenes, and they said they didn't want to be named, but it comes from the hardworking folks of Mishar, so you can deduce how you will from that. This kind of reads like an episode of 24, so it's like if Jack Bauer were trying to secure research funding, so here we go. December 2021, this is titled, by the way, When an RA Saved Her Department from Sinking. December 2021, after 15 years of smooth sailing with our truly cooperative agreement keeping the department afloat, we just hit an iceberg. Our proposal was turned down. Now it's all hands on deck as we scramble to submit to a brand new grant mechanism. February 28th, 2022, end date of grant. No funds are remaining. All efforts have to be funded internally until a successful new award is secured. Time to try our skills in free sailing. February 2022, request for a 1-year no-cost time extension with no costs. However, the full department's expenses and salaries still need to be covered. Meanwhile, RA dives in the fine print of asking for an extension and finds a solution. A cost extension can be requested. Unlike the no-cost time extension, this one actually comes with funding. The PI quickly gets on board, presenting the plan to the program official. After sponsor had some initial resistance, they give the green light. It's our chance to keep everything afloat. February 10th, 2022, cost extension with proposed start date of 3/1/2022, sent to sponsor for consideration. March of 2022, 1 month later, waiting for response, program official confirms receipt. April 2022, 2 months later, still waiting. Will they award us? What if they don't? The clock is ticking. May 2022, 3 months later, still waiting, but received assurance from PO that they are looking into it. June 2nd, 2022, as we are all waiting, the RA makes a bold move and calls the GMO for an update. It's a very bold move, guys. GMO states that nothing has been assigned to her, and she's unaware of the request. Promising to look into. Voice message, we have a voice message, but it's essentially an email or a voice message of NIH saying, oh, wow, okay, I didn't realize that we had this. Thank you so much for calling. I will look into this. You know, they're very nice, so it was a good voicemail from NIH. Fine print, NIH then changed GMOs, of course. So the request was lost in the transition, which I feel like has been what has happened since the pandemic. Things keep getting lost. June 9th, 2022, just-in-time request received. There is hope. June 28th, 2022, NOAA received for a cost extension awarding us a total of $6.3 million. In the end, no jobs were lost. The department sailed smoothly through the storm as they rested a while on the cost extension island until they hit the ground running when a new award was granted in March of 2023. That's all the work of a research administrator. All right. Jokes, anyone? I think I might have a joke. Okay. Oh, we got our next speaker, actually. Andrea Anderson is here to give ORSP updates.
Do I get to work my own slides? Is that how this goes? This is my first in-person meeting with you all. I haven't seen a lot of you live yet. So, new experience, very exciting. I joined in April 2020, about 3 weeks into the pandemic, so I hadn't met most of you in person. Awesome, thank you. Okay, so I will, woo, that skipped ahead. All right. So, a couple of updates on uniform guidance. Not a whole lot to go over here. As you know, October 1st, the agencies are supposed to be implementing all of the changes in UG, but as expected, they are still sort of scrambling to get things together. So there's not a lot to update you on in terms of changes for here at U of M. One thing that is of note, and it may be covered in the sponsored programs update as well, is that the 15% de minimis rate change will go into effect October 1st. So in terms of budget planning, it's a good idea to start putting that in your budget if you haven't already, to ensure that you have that available when it does get implemented by the various agencies. We don't know exactly how the agencies are planning to do implementation in terms of existing awards, whether they'll be issuing one-off amendments or whether they'll do some sort of blanket announcement. It now applies to everything. So as those things happen, we'll figure out processes for getting those changes flowed down and flowed out to everyone. But for now, we're just kind of waiting to hear more from the various agencies. Some updates from NIH. So there is a webinar planned for October 17th, which will hopefully have lots of information about their UG implementation and other policy news. So if you're able to, it's a good idea to tune into that. They have announced, if you didn't see, the just-in-time process is changing a bit, so they're not going to have the automated just-in-time trigger in their systems anymore. So if you receive a just-in-time request, it will be an actual just-in-time, not just that, you know, basic funding threshold that generally doesn't really mean a whole lot. And the NIH loan repayment program cycle will start, or has started, September 1st and runs through November 21st. So just a reminder that Amanda Reel in our office is the person who is in charge of that program from the ORSP perspective, and she is your contact to reach out to. Some NSF updates. So NSF has archived the award terms and conditions and is implementing the revised 2 CFR 200. They hosted a webinar on September 12th. I believe that's available online through this link, so you'll be able to access it there if you didn't see it live. And we wanted to let you guys know that we have received some information from NASA indicating they are now going to reject all late no-cost extension requests that are received. This isn't unique to NASA. NIH has said things along this line as well. So we are starting to see sponsors actually say, no, we will not give you this no-cost extension when it's coming in past the time of expiration of the original award. So please make sure you're getting those in advance, meeting that 30-day deadline. Reminder about prohibition on password sharing. So there was a case a couple of months ago now in the Northern District of Ohio at the Cleveland Clinic Foundation, where they settled with the federal government on findings related to inaccurate or incomplete current and pending support disclosures. One of the key pieces in this case was that the investigator actually shared his password with a staff member and had them completing the current and pending support on their behalf. NIH has a policy against this, and so there was, huge finding, a huge settlement here, a lot of money paid back to the NIH for this particular case. And it's an important reminder that password sharing is prohibited not only by our federal sponsors, but also by university policy. So please make sure that if you're being asked to use an investigator's password to complete work on their behalf, you're informing them of this policy and helping to ensure that they're aware of these requirements, that they are going to have to go in and complete some of those things on their own per the agency. So some updates and tips related to some of the updates in the system. We have some changes that were made recently in the June release and some upcoming in November. Most of them are impacting internally within ORSP, but there are a few that impacted externally. The changes to PAF question 1.2 were a pretty key update. I think a lot of you folks have probably familiarized yourselves with it by now. We made changes to identify whether something is truly a proposal for submission to a competitive opportunity, a contract for negotiation, or really a post-award action on an existing award. This change is critical to helping us with our realignment process so that we can make sure work is routing to the right team within ORSP and make sure you get assistance with your request as quickly as possible. But it's important that that question be answered correctly up front. If it isn't correct, we are going to be sending it back for changes because it does trigger additional questions in the PAF if that answer is different from what was originally put on when it was put through to us. For example, if you're indicating that this is a proposal, there are actually additional fields that need to be completed that we don't really need when it comes to a contract or a post-award action. So if you see it coming back to you to change that answer and answer the additional questions, that is why we are not able to do that correction within ORSP when it's wrong. Go through these slides. So that is the, there's a missing image here, I think. So there is a new email address for the pre-award team. Oh, here we go. This email address is for use, for example, prior to assignment to a PR. So with the new pre-award team, we have sort of a roundtable assignment. Historically, you have worked with one PR, they were your PR throughout, they were assigned to your unit. That is not the case with the pre-award team now. Currently, we are doing sort of a first in, first out model, and so the proposal, when it comes into ORSP, that is when it's getting assigned to a pre-award representative, which means prior to it reaching our office, there is a centralized contact email that you can use to get assistance. So if you have questions or something you need prior to getting it into us, that email address will get you to the leadership on that team, and they can either triage it out to someone to assist you or they will respond directly. And then I wanted to also call out some changes that were made in June on the path for requesting action. So we've added some very specific types of action requests to the PAF request action. This allows ORSP to, again, get this triage to the right team within our office. We have multiple teams that might touch the path at different points, particularly when it comes to turn-down requests. Those requests actually go to our support staff team to log the information, and it's critical that they get the questions answered within this action request in order to complete that accurately. As some of you may know, we do actually track the reason for turn down in the system, and so when you submit it through this action request, we ask you a couple of additional questions so that we can record that reason accurately. And this data is being looked at the executive level, so we want to make sure it's right. So if turn down requests are posted through a comment, we will be pushing those back to have them sent through requested action so they can get into a work queue and we can get the right information before we record that turn down. In addition, there are a number of other types in here that we've added, and this allows us on our end to make sure that we're getting it to the right person within our office and that we're able to accurately distribute workload on that team. So it's important to us to know what type of activity is being requested. This will result in metrics that we can publish then out to the entire research community to see all of the activity that's being done across the community. A quick update on our new contract lifecycle management tool. So we've talked about this a little bit in prior RAN sessions. We are getting close to finalizing implementation. We have built several agreement workflows in the system, and we conducted focus groups earlier this month. So thank you to those of you who participated. We got some really valuable feedback out of those focus groups and found out some things about how the system operated that we weren't aware of. So we really appreciate you attempting to break it for us. That was really helpful. We are still anticipating go live of this system at the end of October and targeting to integrate with ERPM in early next calendar year. Integration meaning that we will have the systems talking back and forth so that you can get status updates through ERPM instead of having to go into the CLM system to see the details of where a contract is at. It will also help us launch workflows in the CLM system directly from ERPM so that our staff can work seamlessly across the two systems. In anticipation of this go live, we have been conducting some unfunded agreement record cleanup, and we actually closed 23,000 open records in that system because historically those agreements hadn't had expiration dates tracked for closure. So just a note on that, if something was closed that you feel should not have been, you have the ability to clone that agreement and reinitiate it. But in general, we are not reopening them. We worked with the schools and units to identify which ones should be closed to try to head off any issues where we close something that shouldn't be. So that is complete, and then we'll continue to look at what else we might be able to clean up in that system because there's a number of open records there. We wanted to give you some staffing updates. We have a number of new staff as part of our realignment. New staff, new positions for existing staff. Sam Gibbons, who is here, is our new Associate Director for Pre-Award. Anna Causo is our new Assistant Director for Clinical Trials. She is in Florida, so she's not here with us today, but hopefully watching on live stream. Natalie Lopez is our new Administrative Assistant Senior. She's supporting myself and Andy Setkoviak in our office. Kelly Buss is our new Manager of Award Management on our award management team. And Amanda Reel joins her as her counterpart on the award management team. Kate Chai has accepted the position of manager on the pre-award team, reporting to Sam. And Christy Bohensky as the lead sponsored projects officer on our award management team. I'm going to skip around the images a little bit. Eric Ward as our Assistant Director for Unfunded Agreements. Many of you know him. I believe he's in Ohio today, not here. But. And Daniela Marcelletta, our Associate Director for Award Management. And last but not least, we have Joseph Fraley in a brand new position, our policy and planning analyst. He joined us just a couple of months ago. All right, so we wanted to just give you a quick update on the realignment. Our roadmap has shifted a bit. There were some delays in the hiring process as we were going through this over the summer, but we've gotten back on track. It just means that it's pushed out some of those deadlines. So we are anticipating, for the most part, completion by Q3 of FY25. We have the pre-award team close to in place. We are going to be doing some of the staff transitioning for internal staff and some additional hiring over the next month or two to fill out that team and to get everyone into their new roles within ORSP. So lots of change coming over the next couple of months as people shift into these new team structures. And I just wanted to take a moment to say Happy Research Administrators Day, and thank you for all the work that you do. We are really excited to acknowledge the work that's being done by all of you and by all of the folks in our central offices to support research here at the university. Probably some of you have heard this story before, but in the 1960s, President Kennedy visited NASA, and he ran into a man on the floor within the facility and asked him, "What do you do here?" as he was sweeping the floors. And he said, "I am putting a man on the moon." He was the janitor for that facility. And it's a good reminder to all of us, like, we're not the people that are in the labs doing the science, making the discoveries. We're not going to get a Nobel Prize someday. But we are contributing to the ability of our researchers to cure diseases that today are not curable, and to put people on the moon. We have lots of people working with NASA here at the University of Michigan. So it's really exciting work, and we're behind the scenes, but we are contributing to making lives better across not only this country, not only this university, but across the world. And that's really noble work. So thank you for what all of you do every day.
Thank you to Christy, and Andrea. And since people have been sort of telling some stories about, how it was then and how it is now, I thought I would go a little off script and maybe share a story as well. But before I do that, I want to take a little time to thank a few people who helped us get our part of this together. Firstly, I do want to say thank you to Becky Humans DeMoss, because she designed, ordered, and delivered your stickers in one day. All right. Also, some of you may know Karen Liska in College of Engineering. She is the one who anonymized and sent me that TAD after emailing every OG I know pretty much in the whole university just from yesterday. And Carrie Cross actually delivered that path. So if you know any of those folks, say, where did you find it and what file was it in and why wasn't it shredded years ago? All right, I'm going to tell the story because of what Chris shared about his first job. It's kind of a confession, David.
No.
I have a confession to make.
What are you going to confess?
All right. I want to confess that I was a horrible new research administrator.
I think I know where this is going.
I mean, it was bad. It was bad. My first job as a research administrator was probably 30 years ago. I was in the Department of Mathematics, and there were about 120 small NSF grants. Almost all of them had the same budget, 1 month of summer salary and a GSRA. It was my job to do the post-award, and I did that well. But there was someone else who did pre-award. And mind you, we all trained ourselves back then. And the individual who did pre-award was sick. So they told me I needed to do a proposal. So I did my first proposal, and I want to tell probably the not so worst of it first and then the worst of it last. All right, but actually the not so worst is pretty bad. So I did not understand about how IDC is recalibrated when you have tuition. And back then, it was type the budget, walk it over, get signatures. I typed the first budget, and I went to DRDA, and Dave Plotchen said, go back to your office. So that budget was wrong because I actually had the tuition and the IDC wrong. I went back to my office, I recalibrated as best I could, I retyped the budget, and I went back to DRDA, and he said, your GSRA rate is wrong. So I changed the GSRA rate, went back to the office and took care of that. Then I went back to DRDA with my new budget, and Dave Plotchen said, you have the wrong fringe rate. But he grabbed the proposal from me, and he started writing all over my budget, and he said, go back to your office and type it just this way and get back here quick. And I did. Okay, that was not the worst of it. That was not the worst of it. And there's a reason why I'm confessing this to you. It's real important for the NGs out there. When I saw those extra questions on the PAF 30 years ago, I had no idea what they were. They'd seemed like, to me, in my mind, something you should be positive about answering because you want to get this PAF through. All right? I'm a positive person.
You are.
Everybody knows that. So, animals, patients, why not? All right, recombinant DNA? Sure. Restrictions to the openness of research? Probably. I don't even want to go into sort of, how I was remediated with that. But I think it's important.
What I love is that it's in the math department.
Yes.
Like, animals, yeah.
I just want to assure everyone I know what those things are now. I've worked in biomedical engineering. And actually, I learned a lot more about that way before that last job. But the reason I wanted to share that story is 2 points. 2 points for the NGs out there. Number one, we have way better training than we did 30 years ago, right? When you were given a job and told, figure it out. All right, so if you haven't had a chance to have that training or even to talk about these things with someone in your mentoring program or anybody with an OG sticker today, we're available. Number two, everybody makes mistakes. And that doesn't mean you cannot grow and learn and be better at this job. I think that's really important to say because it's such a very, very difficult and complex job now. And we have to keep encouraging people that they can continue to grow and learn and do better. And that they're still very valuable because of all the efforts they do on the day-to-day. So that's why I confess that.
Thank you, Kathy.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Back to the script. Isn't it cool, David, to hear from all around the U of M community, not just what's happening, but also how everyone seems to know that you matter on this special honor day. So about these stickers, we have the NGs, the new guard, and we have the OGs like ourselves, the ones that made a lot of mistakes in the day. Many of you have gone ahead and given yourself one of these stickers. Many of you have not because you think it's uncouth. I think you should do it just to go along with us one time.
I agree. Be a follower.
Yeah.
And some of you may not really know where you fit in this whole old guard, new guard scenario. Maybe you've been in the job a while. Maybe, unlike poor Kathy here, you actually did get some training. But you've also probably been, thrown into the fire, the baptism by fire. So you don't really consider yourself a new guard, but you don't know if you consider yourself an old guard either. You're somewhere in the middle. That's fine. Take 2 stickers. Take half of one and half of the other. Take 2 of one and 2 of the other. It really doesn't matter, but take stickers.
All right, now we're going to share why this is important. During the networking time, we want every single OG to hunt down an NG or someone in the middle with multiple stickers And we want all the NGs to sort of muster up the nerve to approach an OG that you do not know or someone in the middle. In this very first meeting where we've come back after this long hiatus, we want everyone to help rebuild this network.
Yes, so to accomplish that, we have some suggestions up here on the screen that people can take advantage of during the networking. So go ahead and introduce yourself, find out where the other person works, how long.
You know, ask a question. Use this as a guide. Just ask an open-ended question. The whole point is to stimulate a conversation between all of us and all of you, because we're back.
Yes, and maybe you can use this opportunity to go up and meet someone in person that you've only seen via email or only as a tiny square on a Zoom screen.
So listen, before we go into the networking and lunch, we want to close it up with a few of our own final thoughts, David and I, because we had this privilege of being the first MCs back.
Yeah, so we just want to thank everyone for being someone who handles this work every day. We want to remind you that resilience is key and that we appreciate your resilience.
We want you to know that your ability to navigate deadline tasks, stewardship tasks, all under the gun and with courage, communicating and serving investigators is so amazing. And we need you to attract you to stay in these key positions and move your career forward.
And now we, like all of you, are looking forward to celebrating. So thank you again to all of our presenters. And thank you again for letting us be the first MCs back at this in-person RAND meeting.
Thank you to all of you.
Time.
Happy Research Minute Day.
Oh my gosh, give it up. Kathy and David. Could not think of two better people to guest MC you guys. That was fantastic. Thank you so much to all of our speakers today, too. This was, I think this went wonderfully and a lot of great content. I want to give a very special thanks to my fellow RAC Communications RA Day Planning folks. Kathy, anyone stand up who helped put this on together today? This was a lot of hard work. Sam, yes, Serena. Big thanks to Chris. Yeah. Kara, Prentice. Oh, thank you. I'm still working, but yeah. Yeah, a lot of hard work went into this, guys, and we wanted to make sure it was very special for everyone here. So I want to give a big thank you, too. I'm going to have to, we can go back to this slide later for networking, but huge thank you to our generous sponsors. Without them, we would not have been able to put on this big event for you all today. So I want to put a nice little end cap on this. Let me see if I've got, I'm going to leave that up. You know, just to reiterate what everyone has said here today, the University of Michigan is one of the top public research universities in the nation, and research is a team effort. A major component of this are research administrators. Being good stewards of sponsored funds and making sure the moving parts move right along, all of it takes tremendous effort and coordination and an unending amount of perseverance, which is often all compounded by the stress and pressures of deadlines. In research, things can change at the drop of the hat, and faculty rely on all of you to make sure their project administration runs smoothly and is under control. You are all a very important part of this work. Research administrators support and steer the business behind intelligent-driven faculty and researchers with very big ideas. If there's a main takeaway from today, it's that we want everyone to know that the work you do matters. It truly makes a difference. So on behalf of the RAC Communications Committee, happy Research Administrators Day, everyone. Okay, some last housekeeping items before we break for lunch. The food's been set out. Guys, we have cake. I wanted to say that at the beginning, but it wasn't out yet, but it is here. There is cake. Everyone, we are going to let the live stream run for an additional 5 minutes. We have the community kudos for everyone to check out. That link is going to also be available on the RAN webpage. So for folks who are here in person, if you don't have a chance to see, hopefully, your name in the kudos, you can go to that link later. We have a photo booth on the back side here. So for anyone who wants to get a group photo with their team or just some people, have some fun, you can email it to yourself and also text it. It's pretty great. We checked it out before this all started. It's very easy and fun. We also have centerpieces. You see the cacti centerpieces? One of the conversation starters is try and figure out who is the newest to research administration here, and whoever that is at your table, they get to take that lovely cacti home. We also, reminder that there's door prizes as well. We're going to be doing that at 1:10. We'll come back. We have 5 gift cards to give away, and then there's also a slew of fun things to pick out at the table. So we'll be calling out those. So make sure you got your ticket into the basket at the table. And let's see here. I think that's all of it, guys. Now it's time to have some fun and eat some food. All right.